Billy is muted, everybody. Unmute yourself. We want to hear you, Billy.
Look at that. Been gone for like we don't even know how to operate the
I
system anymore.
I was unmuted. We're totally going off script here, but there was a fly flying right by my head. The hell? I thought they were all dead. Middle of winter.
Yeah, I thought it was winter, so I thought
Uh,
that's the only thing I look forward to in the winter is like there's no bugs, but
oh,
apparently they're
hate
all living,
flies.
in our homes right now. So, but anyways, guys, we're so excited to be here today. Like I said, we haven't been live in a while, so we're coming back, and I think we have a really good show today. We're going to be talking about the 30 things that millennials should know how to do by the age of 30. So we're, me and Mel are a little older than 30, but we're millennials, so we should probably know this. So we're gonna grade each other and see if we actually know these things.
I know.
But
And there were things that I wish I had done, so that I'm not doing until now. So I think it's a great topic for sure.
Yeah. And so for those that don't know, like I said, this is episode of Millennial with Billy and Mel. We're here, guys. And so like I said, we're really excited to be here. But before we get into all that, I feel like we just need to like unpack stuff just because we haven't been on this in a while. So Mel, what is going on? I know you've been super busy. What's up?
Unpack. How about unwind with like 3 bottles of wine? Yeah, we've had all these intentions the last couple of weeks, and just life. We've said too sometimes that it's okay if things don't go the way that we plan, and if we have to reschedule or if we have to do this. And I know that we even said we got to do it tomorrow, and we were planning on Saturday, but the last couple of weeks have been really busy for me with nonprofits and events starting up, which we should be very thankful and grateful and appreciative that events are really starting to just to pick up again, even though some of these numbers are picking up too. We're seeing that a lot of the outdoor events and things. So for me, I've almost refocused a little bit of my business and started offering more services that I have been before, or that I've been doing for fun and with my friends and when I do events. So I've actually added those services, and in doing some things recently, which has taken so much of my time and stress, I've almost realized that that's the direction that I want to go in. So I'm really actually, it's a good thing. So I'm being able to do a lot more and focus on other things as well. But I always felt like maybe there was a little bit more out there besides the invitations, and and I've really been able to somewhat live in the reality of that right now, where I thought is something far away. It's actually happening right now. So but it's a lot, and yeah, some really cool things. I'll probably do like a side segment, things that had happened at the Hershey Med Center with my sister over the last couple of years, and the need for mental health awareness and help and counseling and psychologists there. It just doesn't exist. And we finally have had conversations. It's a really big deal with several departments there that we are actually going to start fundraising for this to happen. And I just think it's really cool to be a part of that. That whole just an initiative that is just really needed in many situations. So.
Oh,
yeah.
I totally agree.
It's all great stuff. It's all great busy. I'm not complaining. It's just, we all know, we've said this how many times, that when we want to add new things, we have to unfortunately take away things. And while unfortunately the last 2 weeks, I just, the podcast kind of just wasn't one of those things, but I think it was a matter of getting through some things to then regroup and do this, because there's a lot of opportunities on the podcast here. Flora and I talked about some things that Penwatch is doing, where our website is, or our podcast is hosted on penwatch.org, and things that are really gearing up for some really big things that are coming up. So
yeah, yeah. No, like I think I always say life's about timing, and so that's the cool thing about what we do here, that it's like the most not like, it's a really fun thing to do, like the podcast and stuff like that, but it's such a like a non-committal thing where it's not like we're like tied to this thing, and if we need to take a step back and stuff. I felt like that was really good, kind of step back and just kind of like, hey, we don't have to be, live every other, every week,
Right.
and stuff like that. So
Well, I think when we've talked about things that are, if it is a little bit of a stressor, or if something like we're in a situation where, we want this to be fun and we want this to help people and we want to connect with people and have a voice to say it, about some of these things that, it shouldn't be something that's also causing, a little bit of stress. And yeah, I mean, I feel shitty not keeping up with the commitment of it. Absolutely. I just, it's just, there's other things. It's not just this that I had to put off and, and not do. It's other things. It's not just one thing, but I know the time management is something that we talked about, absolutely, for this year, and and keeping up with things. And it's, you kind of have to, that commitment, or what did I say? I forget even my word, but there's things that there's only so much time and energy and effort, but I am keeping up with my side of what I was doing. It's just, it just depends on what it's for, but
yeah. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy right now.
Oh my gosh, Fair and Layla, but your cool microphone here that you can touch.
I know you could do the
They're
little.
not that loud, just so that you know. They're not actually. Your microphone.
Well, that's good news.
Your microphone must be so good that it only is getting somewhat of what is close, but
yeah.
But we love them. They're part of the show.
They are. There are other co-hosts, and so but now I think since we've talked about a little bit of seriousness, right, I think we should do a little fun thing. And like I kind of hinted at the beginning, I kind of sent Mel this thing because I saw a meme, and that's actually the meme of the week. Why
good.
Saw this, and so why I thought about this this topic today. And so I got this from 2 different websites, and so there was a list about 60 things, and I dwindled it down to about 30 because there was a bunch of things on there that were just stupid to do. I think one of them was to be alone. That was just kind of odd for that to be on the website. But anyways,
well, I will talk about that, though. I will give my point, but yeah.
I mean, yes, you got to know how to spend time by yourself and stuff like that. I get that. But these are the top things, and I didn't really think about them like, oh, do I know how to do that? I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? And so what we're going to do here is we're actually going to do today is we're going to go through this list of 30, right? And follow along with us, comment, let us know if you know how to do this, right? And follow along with us. And Mel and I are going to see how many of these we can actually do. And so I'm really excited about this. So the first one, right? I think this is, I'm just gonna pop it up there, right? So it's basic table etiquette. Initial reaction to that. Just thinking, what are you thinking about right now?
Okay, so my mom, actually this came up like a couple months back because I was a Girl Scout. I am technically, but my mom was my Girl Scout troop leader, and we did when I lived in Keatonsville in Maryland, we actually did a table etiquette class through Girl Scouts, and it was the Candlelight Inn is what it's called in Keatonsville. So I know a good amount of that because of it, and like where to put the silverware, because I also worked for a catering company for a little bit. And I learned a lot of that stuff because of those experiences. Had I not, I would not know. I would not know. And I did learn so much of that. And I've actually talked about it in my 20s, because I didn't really go to higher end restaurants where things are super, super extremely traditional with the etiquette. But I went to a couple of things where how many people can start to eat at the table if so many people have their food. It's like 75%, or three-quarters, you're allowed to actually start eating. Most people don't, but technically it's, they could still be pissed at you because they're hungry. But where do you put your silverware and all that? I do know all that actually, just because of those. What about you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was a banquet manager, so
so we both. Okay.
I know how to set a table. I know what forks, right? if you don't have very good table etiquette, right, and you sit down at a table, right, and there's a lot of silverware, you always start from the outside and work your way
Oh, that's
in.
from Titanic. Hello, Leonardo DiCaprio.
But
Remember
yeah,
he
of
didn't know, and
course.
she said, "Work your way in."
Yeah, whatever they put in front of you, that's the next set of silverware that you're using, right?
Right.
I mean, but like when you get to that high level, like you were saying, those events that are like really that forward with their etiquette. I mean, there is so much on the table. Like there's coffee cups, there's
Oh, there's
saucers,
different
there's
spoons: dessert spoon,
yeah,
coffee
oh
spoon.
yeah.
Um,
There's actually
yeah.
a specific way where when you're placing the water, it has to be a certain distance from the knife and all
Oh
this stuff.
yeah.
Like like I remember when I first started as a banquet manager, just seeing like that in the training book, they had like a whole layout of like how the distance is to everything and how it's supposed to be set up. So
Yeah.
yes, I know how to do this. I even know how to serve a
Yep.
etiquette way.
You're
There's a
supposed to go in with from the left and pull the food from the right, right?
Yep, and you're supposed to, obviously serve women and children
Right.
first, and then, so there's a whole, you know, not only on the dinner etiquette, you eating dinner, but
Right.
there's also etiquette on the side of service
Right.
too. So yeah,
Yeah, and
so
like keeping your like if you turn your fork upside down on the top, you're like finished or not finished. Which one is
no,
it?
you're
Okay,
finished.
you're
You're
finished. That's what I
finished.
thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like yeah, so that's so funny. And if you like, there's also the coaster. If you put like your coaster, your napkin on top of your drink, you're not finished. Like, don't take my drink. I'm not
Yep.
done.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that actually, I don't think that a lot of people know that. I think we're probably the minority that know all of that stuff.
But
Um,
I have a point here, maybe. But do you think this basic table etiquette? I feel like it's died with our generation.
yeah.
Like it,
Well,
like it really didn't get passed on to maybe the Gen Zers and the generations to come. I feel like it's a steep drop off from us to them.
Well, yes. And I think my opinion would be going to high end restaurants. I mean, a lot of people, it depends on, these are really, that's a lot of money to go to some of these really, really high end events. But I also don't see them doing even at high end events. It's not as done. But I think with like our generation, like fast food restaurants and things that are a little bit more quick in and out, convenience, I don't think that we grew up a lot of us going to those places, but also I think that I think that the generation below us too probably would have it's just definitely like things. I don't want to say like they die off in a sense, but
Yeah.
I think it would just have to be that kind of that priority. But we were not forced, but to set the table. You like
Of course.
you set the
I remember
table, or
that.
you clear the table. So helping with dinner, I mean, I don't see a lot of younger people, kids like today that are forced to do that. So I think back then, even sometimes when I would put the spoon or the fork or the knife, which one side, that obviously the forks go on the left, but then the spoon and I think my mom at least tried to get us to set the table so that we knew those things. But how many people really make their kids like our age and and older make their kids set the table anymore? Who even sits at a table anymore? Sometimes
I was just
there is
saying.
no dining room table. So
Yeah,
you're sitting
people
at
are
a
so
kitchen island.
busy. Yeah, people are so busy these days. They don't have time to set the table, let alone sit down and have a family dinner. So, but moving on to the next one, I know how to do this. I wonder if you know how to do this. Change a tire.
I do. I've never done this by myself. I've had AAA and I've had roadside assistance. So I have never changed a tire. I probably should know how, but I've had the resources through my insurance or that to come and save me. I also don't know if I mean, this is so dumb because probably every female excuse, like, am I even strong enough to like jack the car up? That would be with your foot, not probably with your hands. So
There you go.
oh no, I should know that.
I mean, I know how to change a tire because I've changed a tire multiple times because I've had multiple flat tires before. I also feel like that time has changed a lot too because I think cars are so much newer, and like you said, a lot of people just use their resources to have somebody come change it for them.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely think it's a skill. I know when we plan on having kids, right? That's probably a skill I would want to teach just because,
Mhm.
hey, you're probably going to need that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, and I think this, like, not to be sexist, but I mean, in my life, my dad would do things for me, and or my ex-husband, or if you're with somebody at the time, I mean, I mean, I guess it is sexist, but I should know. Absolutely. There's many things I know how to do. But yeah, and then I see Bernard commented. That's great.
yeah. Yeah, Bernard actually, when my first hotel job, I worked with Bernard for about 7 years. So me and Bernard, and he'd
Ah,
been working. I don't know if Bernard, if you're watching, do you still work at the Sheraton? But anyways, he'd been there for a long time too before me, and he taught me a lot about leadership. He taught me a lot about just being a good human being. So shout out to Bernard for that. But yeah, he knows he's a generation older than us. So yeah, he says, to be honest, it's been dying before your generation. Many of my generations
yeah,
don't even know etiquette, and I'm one generation ahead of you.
yeah.
So
That's what I
so
said. I think we're kind of in that sense. We're probably a little bit of not the norm. We probably know more just because of our experiences. But
yeah. So moving along, right, right in line, like cleaning your house. Do you know how to clean your house
are we talking
properly?
like straighten
Let
up,
me say
tidy,
this.
or
So
clean? Clean.
I think this is very millennial thing that I did this week. One of my friends owns a cleaning company. They clean houses. So I had them come out and deep clean our
Yeah,
house. And they're going to do it once a quarter,
yeah,
right? So, and now it's my job to maintain because
yeah,
I don't have time to clean my
yeah.
house, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there were many things that we had to do on our own. Once we got our own places, we realized. I think we didn't realize a lot of things. Me personally, leaving the lights on, leaving things plugged in. My parents would say, you're not paying the bills around here. Turn the lights off, or all this stuff. And then once you get your own place, you're like, you're yelling at other people for leaving the lights on, and you're like, I have to pay these bills. What, like, and you understand it when you do have your own home and you pay those bills. As far as cleaning, I've always been pretty tidy and very straight, very much about no clutter. But as far as cleaning, actually, I don't really like to do the deep cleans myself. I'm fine vacuuming.
Yeah, maintaining stuff.
Yeah, I'm fine maintaining, but I actually had somebody over the last couple years that was coming on a like maybe like every 2 or 3 weeks and doing like bathrooms and kitchen and all that. And then she came here for a little bit, and I had started to look at my budgets and things for the year. I want a new car. I want different things, and I said, well, what can I do to save on costs? And that was one of the things that I started doing myself. So it's not that bad when you actually just put it on like either a calendar or on a schedule. I just hate dusting. I don't mind
Yeah.
anything else. I'll clean anything. I hate dusting because it's like there's so much to dust.
Especially because we have dogs, right? And then there's just Bear and Layla don't shed a whole lot, but it's still we have hard. I mean, you've been in our house. We have hardwood floors all over the place, and it's like weird when you have carpet. Even though that same dust and hair is there, you don't really notice it as much. But when you have hardwood floors, it's like right, it just
Yeah.
like cakes up pretty quickly. So for us, it's just going to be like a quarterly thing, having somebody
Right.
come in and just like you said, the bathrooms, the
Right. And I
like,
think,
yeah.
yeah. And I think the more you keep up with it, even as like now, the more that I do it, the more it's just kind of habitual. And like I just stop, it only takes maybe 10 minutes to vacuum. Yeah. I mean, just like stuff that you thought was going to take a lot. But it does. But I do think that it's also, as it wasn't until my 30s that I could, I mean, yeah, I'm budgeting now. I mean, I can still afford it, but it's like it wasn't back
Yeah.
then, prior to being 30. If we're talking about things back then, obviously I was still living at home, and or it was like not like cleaning person. No way, it's too expensive. Or I just I didn't really think about it until you get to the point where you value the time, and then you have the money. You want to spend your time. Like we say, we'll pay somebody to cut the grass or do those things. So
yeah, no, I'm totally the value of time, right?
Yep.
I think next one is probably something we both do, right? Cook/bake. And I mean, I just coming from the food and beverage industry, like I can cook with the best of them. Like I could throw something together, put some spices, boom, good to go. Baking, on the other hand, baking is very scientific for me, and so it's like
a lot of ingredients.
You can't really deviate. You can't, like, if you deviate too much, like you end up with like something not rising or tasting crazy. So
dried out.
I guess I get half a point. I don't know. Baking is not my forte. I can do it.
Yeah.
Definitely not my forte.
I didn't really start, honestly, cooking the way that I do now up until probably I moved into this place, a year. Like, I mean, I did have certain dishes and I was cooking. Absolutely. I was doing things, but it wasn't as, I wasn't as passionate about it. And like, just making new stuff and whipping stuff, putting things together and experimenting with stuff. So in my 20s, no, I probably didn't do much cooking or baking at all. It was very plain stuff. I'd open a box of stovetop or jambalaya or dirty rice or, pasta or grilled cheese. And it just seems very juvenile. It's embarrassing to admit, but I think there were very few things that I ever made from scratch. And now it's the opposite. Like I hardly do anything like open and cook it. So
like I said, I mean, I've been to a couple of your parties, the charcuterie boards, right? The whole spread, guys. We gotta throw like a millennial party one of these days.
That's one of the things that we talked about with Flora that I'll have to do like one or two things once I get through next week. Maybe next week I'll do a couple of things we'll talk about.
Okay, so moving on. Drive stick shift. It was I don't know if you could say I learned how to drive stick shift. I think you could probably say more so like I attempted to learn how to drive stick shift. Like if you put me in a car right now, even though like I understand the premise behind it and how to shift and stuff like that, like it's like in your mind it seems really easy until there's other cars involved.
Yes, and a stop sign and car behind you, and you're rolling backwards on a hill.
Or you stall in the middle of an intersection, right? Like it's just so much anxiety, right?
It's so like I had nightmares about this. I feel exactly 100% the same way. My ex-husband tried to teach me. He drove stick only. It was like, he didn't want to drive, manual, automatic cars. So he tried to take me when we were living in Carlisle one time, and it was late at night, and it was just that empty parking lot. And I did well in the parking lot. I got, again, I understand the premise. I'm also not the most eye-hand body coordination. Like that's why golfing is hard, been hard for me, but I get it as well. I did all right in the parking lot. I was going, but as soon as I got out on the road and I got to the stop sign, a car, no lie, at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, like on a Sunday, no one's around. And then they come up right behind me and I'm nervous and I stalled and couldn't go. And then I'm just like, come around. and he's like, it's okay. And I got it. It just wasn't enough for me to keep trying in a sense. I think right now, it's funny. I actually thought about this recently, but right now, if I had to get into a car and it was like a legit emergency, like whether it was like someone was chasing me or like had to get to a hospital or like something, I would think that my brain maybe would like kick into some type of gear where I know, pun intended, where I'm like, I can do it. I think I would almost be able to, but it would have to be like like that Will Ferrell when he was in Old where he blacked out and then he came to and was like, what happened? That's what it would have to be because I would have no idea. But I would like to learn, but my mom actually got taught back in the probably like mid 70s. I think she learned on a stick shift because her dad was like you have to learn to drive a stick shift first. and then you'll know pretty much after a while how to do it like later on. And I think the whole point was in an emergency, you would know, or if somebody was drinking and driving or, whatever, you'd be able to do it. So,
how many cars these days though are actually stick shift versus automatic?
a lot because they're less
You think
expensive.
so?
Yeah, I think it's less expensive for like if you had like two different model cars, I think sometimes that the manual, and maybe if people are watching comment, the manual sometimes is less expensive, but also on the same token, like my ex-husband, there are people and guys, especially, again, I'm not trying to be sexist, but that enjoy driving a stick shift car, like only, like it's just that. And he was an engineer, and maybe that's the whole thing. I mean, so a lot of these certain cars, like for speed and shifting and all that, and I think it's somewhat of a choice. Like it's fun. I don't know. Once you do know, and you're like, murmur, tippity tap tap tap. I can't hear you.
I'm good at upshifting.
Yes.
Right, but downshifting,
yes.
no. Like
I would say that would be my thing too.
I'm grinding gears all over the place.
Yes.
Okay. So next, fixing things around the house, like not like you were like gonna repair a toilet, but like you're handy. Like you can fix little things, like if like something like maybe hanging a picture or stuff like that. That's what I think about, like fixing like general stuff where you don't have to call somebody.
Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty good at that. I think it all started in college. So, like, again, looking at things that you should be doing in your 20s or knowing or not, or whatever, by a certain age. I had got all this furniture when I was in Philly from IKEA, and we all know that it comes in 1,593 pieces. And my sister actually came to Philly, and we put it together ourselves. So a lot of it, you just need Allen wrenches. Obviously, you don't need drills or anything. They come with their own tools. But back then, my roommate and I, she was interior design. We were both into decorating. So we had started at that point hanging stuff. I probably didn't do too much in high school, but fast forward, yeah. I mean, I would hang stuff, had those like laser levels and, drills and all that. I think this place here, I did everything myself. So when it came to hanging curtain rods, all the pictures, frames, I did everything. And I think I'd be able to, fix little things with some power tools, no sharp objects. No one lets me use those because I will end up in the emergency room for the 10th time. But I'm not so good with, like, if I wanted to make like wood, like, if there's people out there that are so handy, like cutting up wood, they have saws and this, and they're adding like, things like molding and like cutting stuff. I haven't done that, but I feel confident with, everyday things.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to consider myself pretty handy. Like I've built a lot of different things.
And I was just gonna say, don't forget, this could be something on your thing, but actually, I was just talking to Brina and Chase, they're my best friends that are in their a couple years younger than me. We were actually just talking about the pipes and knowing where is that on your list at all? Because if not, I'll just bring it up quick. So something happened where in their basement a pipe burst, and it wasn't because of like the cold, but she went down and his parents were there, and it's old house like mine, and she was like, "Oh my God, the water's coming out! What do I do?" So his dad went down and I guess turned the what's it, like the main valve.
Yeah.
And what was funny was in my whole 20s, I would have had no idea what to do. It wasn't until again, you get in situations where you're either in a home, owning and all that. And I said that the first thing that I did when I got here was to say, where's the major shutoffs? What happens if this, where's that? And I looked around all at the toilets, under the sinks. So in case something were to happen, and that's like adulting. I feel like that's like but people who, again, have been own a home or had a home, and like, I also think I didn't take as much responsibility, or, when you're married, in my situation, I just was like, oh, Kyle will do it, or, oh, he likes to do that. Or, so when you're by yourself, I think it is just experience and age. And, but we were talking about that too, because some people don't even know what if something starts to flood, what do you do? turn off the main water valve, so.
Yeah. Or like, for instance, like if your power goes off in a certain part of your house, right? And
That's
you're
what we
like,
talked about.
yeah, going to the breaker, right? And
Yep,
making sure all the breakers are flipped because it could have been tripped. And
yep,
so, yeah, I mean, I think having some level of handiness around the house is always good, just because you don't want to have to call for everybody. Like, for instance, our garage door, like whenever it would get really cold, like when it would go halfway down, it would come back up and you'd have to fight it to eventually get it down. And I was like, man, I don't know what's going on with this thing. And so finally, like, Megan's dad came over and we were looking at it, and he's an engineer, and we pulled out the directions, right? And we're looking, hey, if you make this tiny adjustment, like it didn't have enough weight to get down. I don't know what
right,
happened, but we made this little adjustment and it was perfect. Like, but I
right.
would have had to call, a garage door person. They would probably charge me like
Oh, right.
$500, right, for them to come out.
Yeah,
It would have been,
yeah,
yeah,
it so works better when someone is like has some type of electric, like electrician background when you need stuff like that, or the plumbing. But I think a lot of it is experience too, and it's just things that we've had to do or forced to do. I mean, I used to trip the breakers because of the straightener and the hair dryer and whatever else I had plugged in the bathroom. And that only had so much. And now a lot of those are like the GFI or whatever they're called. So they have
oh
their
yeah,
own, you can, push it in and it works. But sometimes, yeah, it's just learning, I feel like, too.
all right. Moving on to the next one, kind of going along the cooking theme here, grilling.
I
How good are you at grilling?
became very good at grilling when I was divorced and single, living by myself. And I bought a grill and I started cooking chicken and pork and vegetables. And up until recently, I never grilled a steak or hamburgers because I didn't want to overcook them. So I did not do any grilling in my 20s. I also think because I had lived at home until like my mid 20s, but my parents grill, my parents grill all the time. And I was so afraid of overcooking the steak and the burgers because I like them medium rare. So I just never did it.
Yeah.
So I just actually recently had a couple friends and I didn't grill the steak, but I actually did it on cast iron. But once the weather gets nicer, I think I'm going to start adding steak and burgers to my
Ooh, there you
grilling.
go.
But I do a grill. It wasn't until my early 30s that I grilled myself. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, one of my favorite things to do in the summer is grill. Like we probably cook the majority of our meals on the grill.
Yeah.
But actually, I prefer a steak in a cast iron skillet
Mhm.
before on a grill. There's just something about that
Mhm.
process that, I mean, you can make some really good steaks. So, but
Yeah.
yes, I like to grill everything.
Right.
Steak, chicken, fish, ribs, the whole nine, right? I think
Yeah.
millennials like being outside anyway, so I feel like
Yeah,
a
and
lot of
drinking
millennials,
beer
yeah,
outside. I mean, I guess this whole thing now is going into this like somewhat, I feel like I'm having a repetition of this sexist thing, and I don't want it to be that way. I just feel like there's things that sometimes guys like to do more, or again, it's a manly thing, but it does sound that way. I don't want to come off that way, but because there's so many women out there that know, oh my God, there's a country song out there now that about it, but grilling to me, I just think it's kind of a guy thing, and having a beer and outside and, making steaks. Ron Swanson.
I love it. This is kind of funny because you said you don't, keep sharp objects away from you, but how to use a knife properly, I think is a huge skill set. One of the things you can do, I'm going to give you a very quick safety. A lot of people, when they're cutting, they're like cutting like this with their fingers out,
Yeah.
right? What you do is you curl your fingers in and you
I
hold
don't
whatever.
know. I've never tried that. Does it work? Looks like an
Yep.
onion, you mean?
Yep, with an onion. So
Oh.
I don't have anything I can
I've
hold where I can
seen
do that, but
I have
it
seen that people say that, but I think one time I tried it, but
so because you're not chopping like this, you're cutting here. So it's
right.
basically that knife is just running along the side of
So
your hand.
but that's actually interesting because so I don't know. So that's something that I'm like, well, do I really know how to use a knife? I cut myself at 13, 14 years old with a bagel serrated knife, and I had stitches. And then I
Ooh,
cut
that's
myself with
a terrible
scissors in
cut.
high school, and then I cut myself with an X-Acto blade in college, and all had stitches. So no, I clearly don't know how to use a knife and or any sharp object. And even the fact that I sliced my finger last year on a vegetable where they have like it's like a Tupperware thing and the vegetable slicer. I leaned in and uh, had sliced that off. So I'm curious. I'd be curious to even just look it up because I know that there's ways, like you said, it looks so easy when people are doing it, almost like these chefs that are like cutting. They're not going like up and down and up and down and up and down. They're
Or
like,
rocking the knife. They're
yeah,
just
I'd be
rocking it.
interested in that. Nope, I don't know. And one of our guests, Ryan, does a lot. I was telling you that I had seen some of his YouTube or TikToks and his reels about cooking because he's huge into grilling, very much a griller. So he's on point at I think in his late 20s. So,
Yeah. Yep.
but he actually was talking about slicing your meat against the grain or with the grain. See, I don't even know. But there's a way to cut. It's supposed to go a certain way.
I'm not sure. I mean, I've cut meat before and stuff like that, but like, I mean, there's definitely a way to do it and a proper way. But also it helps to have, a really sharp knife. You would
Right.
think that would be counterintuitive. Like, hey, really sharp knife, I'm going to cut myself.
Right.
But if you have a really sharp knife, you're going to cut through whatever you're trying to cut through.
Right.
A dull knife, you're going to try to really work that knife and you could end up still cutting yourself.
Right.
So, they also, Mel, make those gloves that you can get, those chainmail gloves that are.
So I've kind of got one because I started a new hobby of candle making and cutting wine bottles to make them. And the little contraption that I bought has a little blade, a serrated blade that you score the glass, and it comes with gloves. So maybe I need to wear them more often too. But I try to be very careful. But
maybe. Moving along, this is one of my favorite things to do, is wash laundry, fold laundry. I think it's really relaxing. I don't know why. I don't like to put away laundry, but I like to fold it and clean it and stuff like that. So, but in college, did I know how to do this? Kind of, maybe. And then obviously, somebody posted something the other day, like they were like, oh, I didn't know whites and colored clothes can't go together. And I was like, I've been washing those two together for years and nothing's ever happened.
Millennial meme. There was a meme about millennials about throwing everything in together.
I was like, I can't remember the last time I separated anything. Like the only time I separate things are like towels and like maybe like clothes that need to be hung versus clothes that need to be
delicate or something.
Could go in the dryer. But yes, this is something I definitely do on a daily basis.
You've done for like your 20s and stuff up until now. So yeah, I've done this a lot. I kind of enjoy it too. I don't enjoy the time that it takes to like, to fold and all that sometimes if I'm in a hurry. But in high school, the washer and dryer in our house was upstairs and I was above the garage. So there was a long hallway that went down to where my bedroom was. And it was a bathroom and then the laundry. So the laundry was right outside my bedroom. So I kind of did a lot of stuff and I would do like smaller loads. But again, until you have your own place and you realize how much electricity and water that it does, it's not a lot, but it does take those things that, doing 5 small loads, versus one. But I did used to separate my stuff a lot more. And now I kind of combine it a little bit unless I have enough to separate it.
I don't have enough just like straight white clothes to separate. Like it's
and some of it like I do if it's a certain delicate or that, but I do dry clean some stuff that is, definitely needs to be dry cleaned. But actually what's funny is that you say about wash laundry, how about understanding the types of things that need certain washed or dry cleaned or hand washed, because you can ruin so many clothes, especially like spending money and or that. And when I was in my tip group, the dry cleaner, he would always explain that also, like when you are buying things, especially if they're expensive, to look at the tag and see what it says about, is it dry clean only? Is it hand wash only? Is it, iron and all these things? And then say, well, do I really want this if I'm going to have to be, like dry cleaning it all the time or whatever, to think ahead on some of it. And also, it wasn't until probably my like, I guess early 30s that I started caring more about keeping the clothes nicer and taking care of it a little bit more. Cause it was just, I got to the point where it was like nicer stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
But what I don't like is if I don't do it right then and there, by folding it, and then I could sit in the laundry room because it's downstairs. If I take it up, I have to put it away right away. And sometimes I don't have that time to do it. And then it'll sit on a chair. And then, it's like, it's one of those things you just have to do right away. Like take it up, put it on hangers. And then I was saying this to somebody, in my old house, I had a rack above the washer dryer that you could put the clothes on hangers and then take them up. But now I don't have that. So I think if I could put them on hangers downstairs or just take it up, it'd be easier, but I don't mind it.
Yeah, me either. Like I said, one of my times to kind of just like, it's not a very task that takes a lot of, brain power to complete. So, here's a good one. I think every millennial should know how to do this. Mix a drink, right? You should know. You might not be some mixologist or doing all this fancy shaking and the flames and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you should know how to mix a drink, right? You should know, like, all right, because there are some friends that I have that I think you can definitely have too much liquor in a drink.
Oh, yeah, and it's bad. It's too strong. Not only could it be overserved, but sure,
but like even in a private setting, like at your house and stuff like that. Like I want to have like a good time and enjoy like what's going on, and like you get that one friend that's like you're like, hey, let me get a rum and coke, right? And they make you a rum and coke, but it's like a double rum and coke without the double coke, right? It's just like rum and then like a splash of coke, and you're like.
Yeah.
All right, like I'm gonna have to sip on this thing, or else I'm gonna be like that guy at the party.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting. I know a couple of friends. They are probably like late 20s or so that are really into making mixed like cocktails and really fancy things. And there was actually a party that we had talked about that I saw it on Instagram, and then I think this one girl that I know did it, where you each come with a recipe for a really cool, unique cocktail. And then you make, let's say that there's just going to be 4 people or what, I don't know. You make small portions of it, but you each get to try it. So they're like cocktail parties where you get to make different things. I would say that, I think back in the day and, in your bartending, you're like that as far as the portions of what you're supposed to be pouring. I'm sure there's plenty of places that way over pour at bars and restaurants. I just don't make a lot of cocktail. I don't when now with like White Claw and with beers and wine, other than like a Tito's and Club, we don't necessarily drink. My friends and I don't necessarily drink cocktails other than espresso martinis. So that you do need to know those things, but a lot. I think my dad, like I gave him stuff to make for Manhattan. So it's bitters, the cherries, Luxardo and all that. So I'd like to do it a little bit more, but I
think there was that big craze. I mean, it still might be a big thing, the classic cocktails and stuff like that. But I remember like 5 or 6 years ago where that was huge, right? Everybody was going to a classic cocktail bar, and you had all these speakeasies and stuff like that. Right. And I feel like it's kind of mellowed out a little bit, which, like all things, like, it was the craft beer was really crazy, and then this took off, and then now it's something, now it's the seltzers, right, that are taking off and stuff like that. So,
well, that gave me an idea, because I think it would be really cool if somebody had organized it where they knew what they were making and they looked really neat. Like I know this, like they have ones that they're like smoking and frothy and like little garnishes and maybe
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a time and place for those drinks, right? I think like I'm thinking like that's a good dinner drink, right? Like, after dinner. But like I'm not I don't think I ever was the type of person that was like going and like, hey, let's go out to the bars and drink a bunch of classic cocktails and get wasted, right? It was like
I know. I mean, that's the other thing is you make a really good point, and I wonder sometimes. I mean, I Uber a lot, and in Hershey's Sweet Ride, shameless plug for Chase, is a free ride share service and Teslas, but it's coming to Harrisburg as well. Well, it is, but uh, you know, 2 blue moons when I had my little pocket breathalyzer, just because I was wanted to know because I was driving myself or needed to Uber. 2 blue moons, I was 0.06. So with
Jeez.
one more drink, you would at least go to 0.07, which it always goes up. Like when you leave the bar, it always goes up a little, which would probably be 0.08. So 3 beers is over the limit. Well, the blue moons are stronger, but still, I mean,
Yeah, but still.
and
Yeah.
again, I'm like smaller, it all depends on, your body, whatever your stuff is. But I think that it's really interesting when we see people drinking, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then they're, driving.
Yeah, that's bad news. Moving right along, staying in the theme of alcohol, I think this one's right up Mel's alley. To open a bottle of wine, I think this is more important, is pairing wine with food, pairing the right wine with food. I don't think, I don't know if a lot of millennials know how to do this. Obviously, and Mel, you could probably speak to this more so than I can because you're the wine drinker in the group, right? Why not with Mel? But obviously, red meat, red wine, fish, chicken, stuff like that is going to be a white wine. If you usually just stick with those things, right, you're going to be pretty well, pretty good if you're trying to pair wines with your food. But opening a bottle of wine is a lot harder than people think.
Oh yeah.
Especially like there's so much that can happen. Like the cork could be bad, right? And then all of a sudden it like rips in half.
God, how embarrassing. Like it's half. Yeah. Or goes in, chunks go inside. That actually happened to me in my 20s because I really didn't know. You just have to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And then the foil is deceptively sharp, right? When you take the foil off.
Sometimes I've cut myself. You're right.
Yeah.
And
so, and then there's like, so much etiquette about when you open a bottle of wine, like what with a bottle of red, don't you technically have to let it like?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that until my 30s. And it was just because of the people that I spent time with and that they knew. But decant, absolutely. It definitely
there's the word.
Decant. But I have a decanter and it opens up and it lets it breathe. I learned a little bit about like tannins and things. At the obviously wine party that you and I both had, we learned a little bit about certain like fruits and different like full body and all that. And so I really didn't learn until my 30s. I was drinking a sweeter Riesling that was white and like a maybe Pinot Noir. But yeah, so as far as pairing it, I don't know as much of that. It's more of like when you're out to dinner. I don't do as much. I usually just have like a cab when I with a lot of meals. But yes, it took me a while for opening a bottle of wine. Now I also have an electric one that is nice, but it doesn't work unless you charge it. So many times that's funny, but I'd absolutely know how to do open it with just a regular small one. But I think, I think it was probably once I was with some older people and doing dinners and, a little bit more of expensive wines and wine tastings. And, you go up to nicer restaurants and whether like the hotel here, they have like a sommelier. And, they explain a lot with that. I have a friend that was doing like training for it. So when we would go out, it would be like, like supposed to put it in your mouth, swish it around a little bit, then swallow it. Like,
well, and then at traditional wine tastings, like you're supposed to spit it out, right? You're not actually supposed to.
Oh no, I'm not spitting that out. I waste it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's blasphemy to Mel. But yeah, I mean, and on a side note, like I think going along the lines of opening a bottle of wine, I think everybody should at least take a course in how to open a champagne bottle. I think that's
Sure.
probably it's probably pretty important because with wine, you don't really have to worry about the cork hitting somebody in the face and like potentially knocking their eye
Owl.
out,
Like
right?
Dumb
Like,
and Dumber, they killed the owl.
yeah, yeah. So, this next one's pretty near and dear to my heart, and it's the proper way to do this. I wonder what reaction we'll get. Tipping. So, tipping at a restaurant, tipping at any, or not even a restaurant, just in general, right? Like, I've seen so many servers over the years, like good servers, like get shafted when it comes
Um,
to getting tips and stuff
yeah.
like that. And so, like for me, like if you have a big party, right, you have 8, 10 people, there's a lot of places that do the automatic gratuity, which is
Right.
great, but when I was growing up in the industry, that wasn't really prevalent.
Right.
And so you would have servers that would, bust their butt for this big table and get like, less than 10% on a
Oh
tip. And
yeah, I know.
it's just like, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
I don't know if it's people don't understand. Like, I don't think people understand that most people that work for tips
Yes.
like make less than minimum wage. Like
Yes.
they're not making
Tips are, yeah.
7.25,
Oh yeah.
right?
I mean, it was like 293 or something when I was doing it, if that. But I think being in the industry has definitely had an effect. I think most people that were in the service industry would absolutely agree. But as I got older, I think I always do standard 20%. So, and honestly, sometimes it just is a little bit more depending on like rounding up. Sometimes I just give a little bit more to round up, but I automatically do 20%. And I just in my head I'm the one that's like, bam, I look at it and I say, it's this,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, if it's bad service, I maybe will go down to 815. It just has to be bad. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You got to really do some screwed
but
up
for me,
stuff.
it's 20. Like even at the nail salon or at the hair salon or I don't even. I just say 20. Just add 20%. So
But
um,
my question is, right, and I think this is everybody's question and everybody's little panic mode when you're going to pick up food, right? And there's the section that says leave a tip,
yeah,
right? Like I always am like, I know I should leave something, but like
so
in my
guilt.
mind and in my heart, like I'm like, and I worked in the industry, like, and I can't like tip 20% of the bill. Like I just like,
No.
like I'm maybe like $2-3,
Yeah,
right?
it's hard for me too because I think if you go into a place and these are more like carry out, pizza shop kind of things that they still print it out and it has that gratuity on it because they do have sit down side, so it just prints out the same. So I
Yeah.
think when it prints out when you're just picking it up, you're like, here's a buck, a dollar or two. It's so cheap. But sometimes if I have cash, I'll just throw a dollar or two, in the bin.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but I think um I think usually I don't. Uh, if it's a place that I know, I'll probably just kind of give them a couple bucks. But
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like we go to places and I'll pick up food. I'm like, I mean, you're not getting 20%. You're not getting especially like, yeah, like if it's a large bill too, like why am I gonna tip 20% on you just bagging my food? Like,
right,
and like I said, I love the industry. It's just I don't think, yeah. So,
yeah,
but people should have to work in that industry to know what it is to be a tipped person. So, this one, I wonder if you know how to do this one. I'm pretty good at this. Parallel parking.
hmm
Pretty good at that.
oh
From
yeah. I was gonna say I definitely think everyone in their 20. I think we learned this in driver's ed. So if we are like around our age or younger, I don't know what happened below me. But we absolutely learned to parallel park. And again, sometimes it's easier for some people and not. But we passed a driving exam that was supposed to require us to be able to parallel park. Didn't have to be good, but we were supposed, that was one of our things on our test.
Yeah.
And I actually was pretty good. I got to drive around. I would wash the cars in the summer. My dad would let me drive them around. I was probably 15 or 14, 15, whatever. And I would move them out of the driveway, and I would put them in the street, and I would back them up, and I would put them in. Now I didn't parallel park, but I got a little bit of that like experience. And then I did my driving lessons. And into my 20s, I lived in Philadelphia. And then once I moved back, I was in downtown Harrisburg a lot, and I drove down there a lot. And then I lived on a main street in Mechanicsburg, even just up until a couple of years ago. So parallel parking for me is actually, it's a sport. I'm great at it. I think it's funny. I make fun of people that can't. Sorry. You should absolutely know how to parallel park and fast, like quick, like that, like.
Well, there's two things nowadays, right? There's self parallel parking cars, right? They're doing it for people now. But one thing I was just thinking about, going back to one of the ones that gave us anxiety, could you imagine trying to parallel park with stick shift? Like,
No.
how much anxiety would you have? Like, where
No,
would it be a 10 on the anxiety level?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no,
There's people that can do that, or magicians. That's all
I have like worse nightmares about it, because people are like, are honking and like giving me the finger.
Stalling out.
I mean, I actually I've driven. My mom had a Suburban when I was in high school, and then even out at my early 20s. And I've had friends that had trucks, like some of my guy friends that had trucks. So I've kind of had the experience with even larger vehicles of parallel parking, and you get used to like knowing how much space you have and you don't have. And right now, luckily, my car is so freaking small that I can parallel park in only a motorcycle can probably fit in the spot. So yeah, I like it. I think, yes, this is something I'm very adamant that everyone should know in their 20s.
Going along with, like, I think just being an overall human being, right? I think this is important. And I think a lot of people in the generation below us maybe might not have this skill set. And nothing, I'm not bashing them or anything. I'm just saying it's a heavily digital world now, where you don't have to do this. It's really like, hey, what do you need? Right? This is it. Boom, boom, boom. We're moving on. Right. And I think, like, especially if you're a business owner or you're just, whatever, I think small talk is imperative to being able to just like
absolutely
talk about nothing, right? Yeah. But have a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me personally, obviously I talk a lot. I like to talk, but I think it's about the connection too, and like building relationships, and just having, being able to go out with somebody and carry a conversation about just about anything. It's very rare, I think, these days, even just with people our age, still. But it's just, I think it's also the small talk for me. Sometimes it goes along the lines of people being open and honest and transparent. It's definitely personality based as well. So there's a lot of things that go behind it. But I think, to me, absolutely. Like, if you can't go out at, in your late 20s, even, and early 30s, especially, at this point, like, to say we're saying 30, and carry a conversation about anything, like just nothing, and just like be likable, or something. I mean, I know there's a lot going on here, but I just think, yeah, people get bored. They want experience. They want to connect. They want to talk about stuff. And I've learned that lately. There's just people that I just don't connect with, I feel. But what I wanted to bring up too, at our age, if I have like bring somebody that doesn't know other people, whether it's a significant other or a date or a friend, or like a coworker, to a networking, if you bring somebody, for me, I want them to be able to have a conversation with somebody like, and I can walk away and not be there, and I don't have to babysit. And that's not always the case either. And when you can, I think in relationships too, like if you and Megan go somewhere and you just know the guy, and the women don't know each other, if they can get like somewhat connect on something. I don't have to click and be besties, but it's like if you guys are talking and they can carry a conversation and then you're all together, I think it's adamant that you can at least do that, you know.
Yeah, and I think too in that same situation, like I think like going along with small talk is being able to read the room and understand and see the situation unfolding in front of you, like the dynamic and the energy and stuff like that. And so like if I notice that situation, it doesn't have to be necessarily me and Megan, it could be just me and a friend at an event and stuff like that. And like I know that they're not involved in the conversation. Like I've been that person in that part of the conversation where it's just dominated by two people. And I always try to bring in that third person, be like, so what do you think about, you know what I mean? Like, so, but like, I think that's a skill, like being able to recognize like, hey, not like take the focus off you for a second and be like, hey, this person's like here too. Let's.
Oh yeah. And I've learned that, I learned that probably in my like mid 20s too. Cause people said, oh, they would kind of put me down on it in a sense. And I think, I was aware of it, but I absolutely like ask questions. I stay silent. I bring people in. It happens a lot because, me and there's a couple of us that talk a lot and, we that, and then there's some that don't. And we have to, I share that, I sometimes put the spotlight on them just so that, and some people are shy. Like it's not, some people don't like to make small talk. And I don't ever think you need to be fake and just make shit up. But I think it's just more along the lines of like being able to just have, some type of a get along. I don't know. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think just being able to connect with other human beings and like I said, and most of the time, like you're talking about nothing, like, and I don't mean like it's not important or anything like that. I'm just saying like it's just conversation, and I think the better that you are at that, like the more people are going to want to be around you, hang around you, right? Like be involved with you and all that other stuff. If you lack that skill, it could be a little bit difficult. But I think this is the last one. So I think this one is really interesting because I wonder if a lot of millennials know how to do it, but to build a fire.
Oh my God, this is so funny.
So I think about it like this. Like I don't think about necessarily like building a fire like in your backyard in your like little like controlled environment, but I'm thinking about like imagine you in the woods, like shit's hitting the fan, you're lost, and you have to survive. Survival fire.
I would feel confident that I could do that. Again, I was a Girl Scout, so anyone that's a parent right now, I fully support and endorse your children being Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Learned a lot of things in addition to sports and team activities, but I would be confident. I have a fire pit out back that I started last year, making fires that were just the kindling and then the other, the bigger kindling and then the real big piece of wood. And, we talked about making fire starters with egg cartons and wax, right? Remember, and lint. So sometimes I would put those down, which you're not going to have in the middle of the freaking woods. So I do think that I would be able to do that. However, not with like rocks, like when you're like with, starting to, you're literally, that's survival. Okay. That's, I don't think I could do that. But I think building it, keeping the fire going, like blowing it, not smothering it. I understand that. But I had a friend over and I was like, oh, I'll make the fire. And he's like, oh, I'll make the fire. And like, dude is like Boy Scout extraordinaire and like starts making it apparently like a Lincoln log. Like there's ways that you can actually make it like you build it up almost like the Lincoln log house. And then you put that, because that keeps actually the base together. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know anything about this. Like clearly the Boy Scouts were getting trained a lot more on the survival skills of this. But yeah, it's interesting.
Look who decided to join the show. What's going on? It's our local fact checker, Brandon.
Yeah, Missed you.
He said, I try to always tip, even if I'm getting something DoorDash, hoping it
Yes,
will get split between workers. There's help. I know it's tough
it's
for
true.
servers right now. Yep. So, that's a different, like, obviously, like if you're getting your food delivered, yes, tipping. I think,
Yes, I agree.
that those
There's no-
guys
yeah.
and
I
gals
do think,
deserve.
I mean, there's times where like I hardly ever tip at like Starbucks. Like they put the little tip jar outside when you're at the drive-through. And there's times where I don't carry cash ever. Like I have
Yeah.
change maybe for certain things in my car. But it's also about like just there's certain times where I'm like inclined more to give a little bit, like, oh, and like whether somebody did something nice or not, I'm just like, oh, I have $1 here. What am I really gonna need it for? And I want to give, I'd rather give it to somebody else. And I do feel like if I have like some change or like a couple of dollars when I am in those situations, I like to do that as well. So it's kind of like the timing of it. But
Brandon, if you're on, I don't know if you noticed, but I've upgraded some stuff. I got a new
yeah,
microphone.
you should be
I
impressed.
got a new webcam. So hopefully you're impressed by it because he's a big tech guy. He's got some cool stuff. So, but right, that was the 30, and I didn't keep score, so I don't know where we
Oh
scored.
shoot, well, I never keep score. So he said, proud of you,
Darn it.
Billy. I did not keep score, but I feel like we were probably close. I know the knife thing you were saying, and also the tire. I mean, I absolutely do not know how to change a tire. I think.
Yeah, it was stick shift for me, I think,
Yeah,
and a couple other
we were
things.
close. I'd say we were pretty close.
Yeah, Brandon said he's proud of me. Yeah. So, but anyways, it's that time of the show, right, where we share the millennial meme of the week.
Millennial meme.
And we take this banner down because we don't need that anymore. And so I don't know whose turn it was. It doesn't matter. I just said I'm going to do it. And especially because this meme I found, I think, really kind of just sparked that whole. But I think it kind of just signifies like, hey, we're millennials and we do know a lot. And we know just because you're a boomer or you're a Gen Zer or a Gen Xer, like you think you know everything, you don't. And so without further ado, boomers, it's a picture of King of the Hill, and looks like he's irate about something. He says Computer Business Center. It says boomers, millennials and Gen Zers can't do anything without help. Also boomers, do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
That's so funny. Yep.
So,
yeah. They need help.
Yep. So we all need help. We all are not good at we're not perfect at everything. I think that's what you need to remind yourself of.
It's all relative. Like they don't probably give two shits about TikTok and all that, where it's still very relevant to us, in our businesses and things, but we're like, we don't know, we're looking down to the generations below us and they're probably making fun of us. The same thing we make, we've had many early podcasts about this, but I think we'll get to a certain point in our lives that we're like, don't care, don't need to know. And then there's going to be things where we're like,
I should have known how to do that.
Yeah.
But there's another point of the show. If this is your first time watching, right? We just did the millennial meme, and now I think it's Mel's moment.
Mel's moment.
So this is where Mel gets to share some piece of advice with us, maybe some tips, tricks on how to drive stick shift. Who knows, right?
No.
We don't her tip for driving stick shift is don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, what's so funny? Usually when I do some of my stories, I'm just trying to get it because it's just about this and I don't want it. Sometimes when I do a story on my Instagram and I really like to save it, I put it into my highlights, which everyone should know that the highlights are things that are the stories that you posted and you can save them. So especially if it's like business related or things, you can obviously keep them like on file as your highlight on Instagram. But I just posted this yesterday and I think it is absolutely perfect for today's millennial meme. Mel's moment. So this says, screw the timeline. You are not behind. You are not too late. Everything you want is within reach. Claim it. So I got a lot of likes on that. And I think because of some of the things that I have just started now figuring out with my business of what I really love to do and combining things that I love and, monetizing them. I realize that, and it's kind of ironic that you wanted to do this today, which seems like it's a trend and it like happens a lot, but we are never too late. I mean, you see stories about Oprah, and she was 50s, Bill Gates. I mean, people who started their careers, their wealth, their legacies at 56 years old. And, we have so much time until then. So I think even though we might not know those things that we say you should before you're 30, there's always time. There's definitely a lot of things we did when we talked about bucket lists. A lot of them were learning things like golfing, or it doesn't just have to be going places. It's learning things. And maybe we didn't have the opportunity to learn that or do it, or we weren't forced to have to do it. But I think absolutely we are not behind. Even if these things you don't know how to do, either you can still learn and are beneficial moving forward. So start today if you don't know.
There you go. There you go. I love it. And Brandon popped up a last comment here. He said that should be I'm assuming poll. That should be a poll. Poll on how many millennials can drive stick shift style vehicles.
Well, we'll put it up. We'll do it.
And I looked up a stat just to make sure. Last year, only 2.4% of the cars sold last year were stick shift. Now, I think that number is probably a little off just because of where the industry was with cars and not having a lot of cars.
And there's like nothing available, but still.
So I'm sure that number is a lot higher, but definitely less cars are sold these days. So,
yeah.
But anyways, guys, we really appreciate everybody that jumped on today, commented, Brandon, Bernard, the whole gang.
Yeah, thank you.
We were back in force.
Yeah, right? We gave a little bit longer time since we missed 2 weeks. So
yes, we gave you a little bit of extra, right, to say the least. But like I said, make sure you check us out every Friday, 2:00. Another episode of Millennial will be live again. We are going to be doing some cool stuff this year. We are going to put that stuff into place because we always say we're going to do it, but this year we're going to make it happen. But like I said, we appreciate everybody that jumped on and commented and likes this page and stuff like that. But anyways, like we always say, make sure you have a good weekend, even though it's going to be snowy probably. Right? Isn't it supposed to snow a lot?
It has been here actually since this morning. It has snowed lightly, and it's supposed to go until maybe like 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah. So
be safe.
Be safe.
I think it's light.
Yeah. So, but make some good memories, right? Hang out with some family members. They're more important than ever nowadays. So, but just take some time this weekend to do that. And
everyone if they've done those things before they were 32.
Yep. Yeah. We'll post the list of all the things, and you guys can let us know which ones you are good at, which ones you've never done. We'd love to see your reaction.
Which ones you hate.
Yes. So anyways, guys, enjoy your weekend. We will see you next Friday. Have a good one.
Bye.